Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls of all ages, welcome back to the T.O.A Podcast. I am your host, Don Vermel, and joining me today are my two glorious brothers.
One's more glorious than the other.
Yeah, me.
Well, that's a matter of opinion, but I sure feel sorry for your neighbors right about now.
Okay, put the mic there, you dipsticks. You were okay. First off, last week you kept doing this with the mic. Both of you just point towards my face.
So I got
Thank
bad
you.
hand-eye coordination.
No, never!
You're a dick. Okay.
This is what you get for being a cheapskate.
But hey, look, I'm gonna get not cheesecake. Just I haven't had time to get more mics. Okay, I kind of forget until I record. But
It's not cheapness, it's more laziness.
I can't help
and
the
just,
flavor of
oh no, it's
this
not really
podcast
lazy. I just
is really
forget. I just forget. Because even when I'm recording these, I don't think, oh, I need a new mic. It's really when I'm recording. That's the only time I really think
And
about it.
2 seconds after you finish recording, it's out of your mind, and it's like, Mike, what's a mic?
Our brother. I did the joke.
Yeah, we haven't done one of those in a while.
Now because we've been referring to him as How One lately, so as I'm trying to. Okay, I have a question. If I ever get How One on the podcast, his online persona is Fermentakill. So should we just start referring to him as Fermentakill from this point?
Let's take a vote. I vote for yes, call him Fermendakill.
Zach, what's your vote?
I think that's what we tried going, but you insisted upon how one.
That's mostly because, okay, we're going to go on Fermentakill, or whatever I want. Mainly because the only reason why I call him How One, because I had already set up basically Bionicle aliases names for them, because I never thought I would need them on the podcast, or like on YouTube before, so I had like names to go. But then I thought, I was like, oh, I might actually have him on the podcast at some point, and then I'm like, I guess I can't refer to him as How One, because he'll be like, why am I How One? And then I would have to explain it.
So our other older brother, who I think we called Lost
The
T.O.A,
Lost T.O.A.
he is Robin Hood from now on.
Mithra, we kept the same, though, with our older sister, Mithra. That
That's
never
just because
changed.
the name still worked.
And then our younger sister, the seventh T.O.A, well, I'll keep... That's more of a description than the name. Not gonna lie. Which, eventually, I will make mocks of all our siblings, so I can have those on screen someday, maybe. I don't know. Someday. That's why I built these original 3 mocks that you see on screen.
We can still call ourselves, T.O.A, as in Trio of Albertans, because the rest of them, they don't live in Alberta no more.
That's true. We're the last ones. Oh no. He told us every lived. I'll bleep it out. It was not specific enough.
Gosh, we're really misleading you folks over on the other end of the web.
There's another end of the web.
It's actually Trio of Alaskans.
Yes, Alaskans. Trio of Alaskans.
Yes.
Also, Americans.
Get your countries right.
Shout out to that one Bionicle fan I do know who lives in Alaska.
Wait, you know someone from Alaska? Was he the Brooklyn guy?
Brianna Sledge.
Oh yeah, Brianna Sledge is from Alaska. Right. But time to actually get on topic of this podcast now that the
I thought we were on topic.
Stay on topic. Stay on topic.
talking
That's my
about
line,
names
buddy
was
boy.
talking about names was not the topic, but
We didn't have
okay,
a topic.
I had a topic.
Emphasis on
Okay, what the generic topic of this week will be, which we'll see if we stay on task on it, just because I'm still very much a Bionicle mood. Despite this podcast not necessarily being exclusively Bionicle, I'm in a Bionicle mood, so I talk about Bionicle.
It's very Bionicle biased.
The most Bionicle biased. I'm going from last week. I just realized there's a lot of other dumb stuff in the Bionicle universe and canon that we can pick apart because, unfortunately, when you give one person too much freedom of end all be all when it comes to everything, because I would say the issues of Bionicle can be similar to the issues with some people have the prequels of over explaining where stuff is. Like I would say the Metachlorians and explaining where the Matorn are from are very similar issues that the Bionicle and Star Wars fan base have.
They're on the same level of, we didn't actually want to know that.
Plus, it's that or whatever you came up with in your head.
Yeah, Bionicle has a lot of where did they come from, but you don't want the answer, like Makuda's name, where Matorn came from, where Toa come from. I never wanted to know where the original Toa came from. I like the idea they just fell from the sky in canisters.
See, the T.O.A I was very much curious about where they came from, although I was very much let down by that, because I was like, really?
Taking away the mystery is not always a good idea.
Well, let's be honest. The mystery is half the reason why Bionicle was so, I would say, popular. Such alluring to a lot of people was the mystery of everything. There was a lot, the question, like, almost up until basically the final serials near the end, there was always a mystery about something. Something. Well, really, until Matt Nui was revealed to be a giant robot, there was always mysteries about something. That was kind of when things started, getting majorly revealed. Up until that point, it was still always very vague about anything. And like I said, like with how Matorn exists, like where they came from, everybody was like, where does it came from? But no one really put that much onto it. And then Greg just said, they get actually I don't know did they come out of fat? Well, I guess at this point there's the set amount of Matorn that the great beings made, and then when everyone dies, they just get reincarnated into a new body, which is kind of lame, really lame.
But can make for a good story point, like you don't want to die because you lose everything that made you you.
True, but still, it kind of cheats death. I don't like it. I hate the fact. Okay, one of the things I hate that Greg did. Like, this is the one thing I would say I would like, on all levels I disagreed with, and that's when basically the whole like getting transported to Red Star was kind of becoming a thing, and you basically in one of the last serials, I don't remember which one it is. The Powers the Be. I don't know. I can't remember which one it is, but Platu and Kopaka go into the Red Star and they come across Traga Lacan. No, he died. He's dead. He's no more. Ruined.
I think just them going to the Red Star. Yeah,
Okay.
no.
I didn't mind people going to the Red Star, but just the way. The thing is, the Red Star I don't hate, and a lot of what they did with it. But the fact that they basically opened up the can of worms of people basically being reincarnated in other bodies, that opened up a whole can of worms that kind of ruined everything.
I will headcanonize it. That wasn't Lacan. That was just a copy that was up there. The Red Star makes copies of people.
Copy.
I think Greg Farsi just liked working with certain characters, and this is the only MacGuffin way to, bring back characters like Mavra and Lacan.
I mean, let's also be honest that, like, when it comes down to Bionicle, it has a lot of issues that comic books have, which is, basically in the end, people didn't stay dead. And then you start having convoluted storylines that contradict each other. Like, I mean, Bionicle did have a comic book run as well, but I feel like it does share a lot of similar problems that a lot of just science fiction and such have of people not staying dead.
Of long-running things, too.
Weirdly enough, Bionicle was decently good at if a character died, they stayed dead. They just didn't usually kill off main characters. Jala's whole death and resurrection, I give that a bit more of a pass because it's from the movie. And second, Takuta Nuva has powers that I have no idea that explain. Who knows? Maybe he has life-giving powers.
That voice in that line, how can you say that was a bad scene?
I mean, it's like, don't get me wrong, it's like, it's kind of cheap that I know Jala dies, heroic sacrifice, and he's back alive. But, kids' movie. Because it's a movie, and the movies are slightly, like, are not end-all canon. Like, then the movies are, like, second-level canon. Like, they can be contradicted by, like, the books and such. So it's like, if something else says the movies aren't right, then... And that's never really been explained, which is, it's fine. It's fine. I also think is stupid. Like, one of the things I actually think is stupid, is the Quatorians being mostly organic beings with biomechanical implants. Because I'm like, for two reasons. One, they're Bionicle toys, so they're using the same parts. But two, the movie that they were in, they actually decided to go for toy accurate looking. And it's like, no, Quatorians don't look like...
All those spinners. Also, on the thought of an irritating thought, the idea of Glatorian being Toho who just need to touch the mask of light, I still dislike that to a great extent.
I don't mind the fact that, see, if they were more Toho-like beings, not organic beings, like, a lot more like prototype Toho-like, which they are, I think. I don't mind the idea that they can be using ML's powers because the Bionicle, but the way that Glatorians are described as being like organic beings with biomechanical implants, I just think that's dumb, especially because when you look at the toys, it's like, no! It's dumb!
Yes. Going back to what you were saying about how, the movies are kind of B canon, yeah. Just saying, the movies did sort of have, like, take a little romantic ride drive, and love is not canon.
No camo. Hard. Real. It was hard. real
Being
hard.
biomechanical beings, they're half mechanical, whatever. You look at the society they live in, it doesn't look like they could keep those mechanical bits from not failing. Like, they would all die quickly. They don't look like mechanics there, or computer experts, or anything.
I mean, as Barrick
the
showed,
organic parts, of
and things,
course.
even in the movie, Barrick says like, "Well, I've had to patch myself a few times and a few screws fall." I'm like, the only reason, like the only evidence or any like bit of the story that ever has anything that says that they might be more organic than not is the fact that Greg said so. That's like the only thing. Everything else basically says the contrary. I'm like, just make them basically. In fact, I think it would have been better if the Glatorians were like less organic than the Toa, because like, the Great Beings
Just
first.
pure
Just imagine like,
machine.
they basically made much more machines, like maybe with like, a few like artificial tissues, like maybe a lot less. They're mostly machines, and they're realizing, what, this isn't quite working. So they made more. They added the organics to give them more life and like longevity and such, despite the fact that the Glatorians are way older than the Toa, which is
That I don't agree with. That's just silly.
especially because it's also
like
then
muscle.
Greg did confirm that Gatorians and Agori can reproduce of some kind, which I'm pretty sure he said then go do it. So do it. So basically, it's like he's always saying like, okay, so if Gatorians and Agori can reproduce, and they can also live for hundreds of thousands of years, they should either be really overpopulated. Like they should not have. It would have made more sense if Matoran can reproduce and Agori couldn't, and Agori have really long, like, or just make Glatorians have shorter lifespans. And I know they decided that Ranu's been around since like the Shattering, which was like 200,000 years ago, or however long.
Should we also just, mention the whole annoying 100,000 years of history all within the row? Like, why couldn't it be like 2,000 years, 1,000 years in the sky, 1,000 years crashing the earth, or even like
I mean,
50?
that I wouldn't say is anything dumb. That's more so just being vague with timelines, because like generally it's like a lot of stuff like
Everyone.
well everybody was created at the beginning, but like beginning of Man Nui's lifespan, but it's more so all the events that happen between the start and the end aren't given a date. So it's just kind of like at some point this happened, at some point that happened.
Yes, but we know that history with the robot is 100,000 years, and pretty much everyone has been there this whole freaking time.
Well, let's be honest. How would they
If
get
not
there if they
longer.
weren't there from the beginning? How else would they get there? It's not like,
That's a good point,
because
actually.
remember, Matoran aren't recreated. They're just the consciousness just get repurposed. Like there's no new or old people. People just die. They go to Red Star. They get put back. It's the exact same amount as you had before. Like you generally always have the exact same amount of beings, unless there's like beings that like made the Makuta make or like weird experiments. Like there's a few exceptions, but for the most part, for like any stuff that started there, they're still there unless they died by some excuses. Means that they stay dead because disintegration, which I believe is one way you could actually permanently die is if you got disintegrated, like your body's gone.
If there's no body to come back, then you're
Or-
screwed.
Consumed by another
Some
being.
something like that. Well, it's similar thing. Your body's gone, but and speaking of human and Urgatorians, the Great Beings. This is a personal gripe of mine, specifically because somewhere I think in either like ask Greg like on the Lego message boards to basically ask Greg questions. I think is where this information became canonized. I don't know exactly where. I just know I've heard that basically Great Beings are very similar to Glatorian in stature and whatnot. Like they're basically Glatorians.
Hogwash.
Exactly. I like the idea when Great Beings also first weren't even really mentioned until I think maybe like 2005 when Great Beings started getting slightly mentioned around there. I don't know for sure. They weren't really in the original canon. But so when they started getting around, I'm like, okay, also these are beings that are, and once you realize that Man knew he was created by greater beings, I'm like, okay, these are also the creators of Bionicle. And I just assumed that this was going to be left very vague. Like Greg was specifically not going to explain because I always thought the great beings as an analogy for us, the builders, the people who played and build with the toys.
Which really makes a lot more sense than what Greg came up with.
Well, they're builders, they're creators, they built the Bionicles. What do we do with the toys parts? We build Bionicles.
Yes, a Doogie Woogie is far better choices for great being than Latorians.
I am not going to explain the Doogie Woogie
I
to
had
the
no
audience.
expectation
So
of ever being
don't ever bring up
explained.
the Doogie Woogies again. I'm not explaining that.
Family
In fact,
podcast.
I might
have
even edit
inside
this out
jokes.
just out of spite. But
Now I shall
the
bring up every
great
podcast.
beings basically not being anything. I don't know. This is the idea of great beings basically being these more mythical like beings that you don't know anything about. Like I picture like because even if they were like not essentially us like an analogy for us, I picture them at least being these larger than like life statured figure, like these large imposing beings like towering down like
Something
us.
that lives up to the word great.
Not just really smart. It's
Throw
the
up
thing. The thing
sometimes.
is, it's the great beings were basically brought down to the ancients in Stargate. They're just really smart humans, or just really smart Victorian-like beings. That's all the great beings were, just really smart people. And I'm like, that's kind of lame. I like the great beings are the one thing that I really, really think should have been left basically in the background, like really pushed to the back.
Or, just actual humans like every science fiction goes.
I mean, I was advocating for us to be the great beings, like it's like you are the great beings, which means I'm advocating for the humans. So,
Gosh,
but that's also where the size of T.O.A get to me, because like canonically, I believe T.O.A are 7 foot tall, I think,
It's been a while
something like
since I
that.
looked this
So
up.
it's like,
That sounds about right to my memory.
so if you think humans as it, then yes, they are Gotorian size. That makes sense because humans are like 6 foot tall. But I digress. I like the idea that canonically speaking, I picture Bionicles being the size of the toys and like the great beings being us size. Like that's how I envision, because I envision the great beings as an analogy for us. Basically, it was always going to be kept very much on the down low. Like you referred to the great beings a little bit here and there, but like names are never given.
Simply put, I think Greg just got a little too carried away with his power.
I don't say got carried away. I think it was just trying to keep fans happy. Like answer questions, just be it fun.
I think he got too carried away.
I mean, I'm
You have
pretty
to
sure
answer them
pretty
on
sure the
the
name
fly.
Pterodax proved that. Now, Pterodax as a name is a whole controversy that some people don't mind it, some people like it, other people hate it. I think we have 3 of those in this room, maybe.
I am pretty much ambivalent, even kind of like the name.
I have actually grown to like the name for the reason that I think I mentioned before to like online like on forums and such that because like I really shouldn't be making fun of Makuta for having a real name and an alias, because look at every person in every forum. We only share our real names with those who need to know. So the idea of Pterodax or the Makuta, basically everyone knows the Makuta except for those. I'm like, it makes sense. Like people, why the heck would he get that privilege out of it? Now the name Pterodax itself, like as how much do I like the physical name, like the literal name? I don't really like that. I've grown to like it. I accept it. But I don't mind the fact that he has a name.
However, while I don't have a problem with the name itself, I have a huge problem with not only it being Makuta's name, but that Makuta is a species. I enjoy Makuta as a one and only the brother to Matanui, and Makuta is just such an intimidating word and name or title or whatever you want to call it.
I mean, I definitely wrestled with my feelings of that, because, again, the Makuta is just a super cool name. And yes, I love the idea of him basically being Manu's brother. That dichotomy between light and dark, good, evil, all that was really, really cool. Which also, I had a thought earlier today. The fact that Manui was a giant robot staring in his face, the most iconic image for me is an infected mask mixed with the shape of Mad Nui. Mad Nui literally is infected on the face with an infected mask, like literally in that image.
They gave the
Like
ending
the most,
away.
it's literally saying this is Mad Nui's face, and Makuta's taking him over with his infected mask. Like it's super on the nose.
Talk about
Literally
foreshadowing.
on the nose, because the mask sits on your nose. But I'm like, it's just like that's another thing. But either way, Makuta's name, being a species, I've learned to just kind of accept all that. And don't get me wrong, I prefer the first 3 years of Makuta, like just for story relevance or atmosphere and stuff. I just like that better. But I don't really have a problem with him being like Makuta's being a species. I don't know. I definitely don't hate the Pterodax thing as much as a lot of other people do. And I like that he has a, but I don't really like the name Pterodax. I think that was, I don't know if Greg always like I know he used it on like World of Warcraft like as a username, I think beforehand or whatnot. Maybe that was a World Cup, but it was like some sort of like I think online RPG or something. And so I don't know if he had the name planned for Makuta for a while, or was the name that he used for a long time, really liked it, and decided to weasel in there as Makuta's name. Which, Greg, it's a little level of hubris right there. Like, calm down, old great and mighty Greg. I love you, by the way.
I don't mind the name at all. I think it's fine.
As someone who's come up with a lot of dumb, made-up names, and I actually saw one person post, like, there was a conversation about this, I think, on Beast of Power. Someone was mentioning how, like, one reason why Makuta is a more superior name because it's an actual word. There's what's the word? There's like phonetics to words, like when things flow. Like there's a linguistal phonetic to it. I don't know, but like
I get what you're trying to say.
Anyone who's playing was words like people with different languages and such can only pronounce things in certain ways. Like there's a certain flow to it. And pterodax is very much, you can tell, is a made up word. Like you don't hear the word pterodax like, that sounds a little European or this. You can tell that's just a made up word. Like there isn't like a flow to it. And I have plenty of names that don't have good flows to it. So it's like, yeah, I kind of get what the person was saying, which is one reason why I think Makuta has just a nicer ring to it. And also the title The Makuta. Putting the in front of something, it's just kind of cool. It's just kind of like makes you. But I'm been stuck in Makuta.
Especially if you're a bit of a narcissist.
Yes, very much a narcissist. Hey! Okay. These guys just dissed me. Okay, for the viewers, I like to stick the in front of my real life name a lot. And in fairness, though, you guys.
Hey, I think it works too. You stick the in front of his name, it works quite well. With my name, no, but with his Paul, it does actually work quite well.
Yes, I'm going to dox myself. My name's Paul, so people refer to me as the Paul. I am the Paul. And to be honest, you know what? I kind of like it. And there's a lot of people on their own have came to that conclusion as the only real nickname that I got in real life. I never gave myself that. Actually, other people started giving that name to me. What was the description and the best way is like, how would you describe him? I know he's Polish. But now after this podcast, no, you'll never hear that name again. But speaking of Makuta and dumb stuff, the excessive amount of powers they have.
Ridiculous!
Don't get me wrong,
Real ridiculous.
See, I can see how they came to that conclusion because, obviously, Makuta created the Rockshi, right? And there so happened to be 42 Rockshi, so obviously the person who creates them should have all the powers of them, right? However, the moment you do that, you get the same issue that comic books get. Well, if Superman can do everything is like, why isn't every battle basically gone finished in a second? Why isn't everything? Because also people poke fun at it, like, why can't Superman just fly around the earth and just turn back time? Why doesn't he just punch Batman into oblivion when they're fighting? That same idea, Maku's he has the power to kill you in 591 ways and whatnot. And most
1,000 ways, and 970 of them hurt, or something like that.
Something like that.
Yes, but it takes forever to pick and choose one.
And it's I don't mind the idea of a really overpowered villain who has a lot of powers, but it's just when you look at Maku's powers, and then you look at the first 3 years, Greg basically found a way to say well, with Takanova, he was just being sporting, which, you know what, that works because they're literally playing Coley. So, in that case, yeah, it does work that Makuto's toying with them. However, in year one, why didn't he just, bring the pain on the Toamata? What was he trying to accomplish just sitting there in a cloud going, "Ooh, I'm evil cloud"? Sorry, Makuta, I love you. Instead of just going zapping them with chain lightning, and then, sending them with sonic booms, fire, or what? Nice, there was no Rockshi of fire. But you get my point.
Why isn't there Roshki of fire?
Because we haven't lit any on fire yet.
Ooh, good idea. Let's lit something on fire.
But the excessive amount of powers of the Rockshi, I mean, 42 different kind of Rockshi, that's fine. But having a Makuta with all the powers is just
Maybe they're just really watered down versions. His chain lightning is really just little more than static electricity.
So basically level 1 Palpatine on Battlefront.
And the Roshki on the individuals are level 40, 50.
That sounds dumb that the boss. I don't know what it is, but I think a lot of people do have issues with that when you kind of think about it. But that's just, that's a minor gripe. That's a minor gripe. Oh, another dumb thing that I also think that's like opposite of Makuta, we go to light. Avamatoran. Why the heck can they use elemental powers? Like, I know that was not a Greg thing. I believe that was actually the Bionicle story team, which isn't like exclusively Greg, I'm pretty sure.
It's Greg and his companions.
I'm pretty sure that was.
Greg and his
I'm pretty
Matoran.
sure that was like in the design, like when they were designing the Matoran. So I was like, I'm pretty sure that was early into the. That wasn't just Greg going, yeah, they can use a little bit of ML powers. I think that was actually the Bionicle story group because like Greg was also part of it, I'm assuming, but he's also allowed to do all the expanded universe. Basically, he's like the one and only expanded universe guy. Well, then there's like a story team for the rest, I think. But I don't remember where I heard or read that, but I'm pretty sure but I'm like, why the heck can they use light? Like, it doesn't.
They're in a giant cavern underground, Paul. They need to see.
But as far as did it actually help? Did it actually have any prevalence or purpose in the story? Because I don't really remember.
It may have enhanced the T.O.A abilities? Maybe?
I mean, them being stuck together enhanced their abilities, but I don't think they really didn't need to be able to use their elemental powers of light.
It did nothing for me.
Now, the idea of an Amatoran itself, I don't know how I feel about completely. Sure, I like the idea that the Mask of Light was a special mask that basically whoever was chosen to it would be turned to a Toll of Light, and then it wasn't like, oh, you're the Amatoran, therefore you gotta be the Toll of Light.
I think part of it may have been to explain, Tanmo's green, he's orange, and, he's white. Like, they're using their light abilities to change their color.
I think it might have also been a year thing because you had all the shadow villains, you had the light good guys. It was much more light versus shadow, final battle, that sort of stuff.
I would have been content with just, air, fire, whatnot, Matorans.
No, I mean, let's be honest. I could probably spend like an hour complaining about the Abatoran on their own right. Let's be honest. People have a lot to say about Solak. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah, Solak.
Don't get me wrong. I actually don't hate Solak as much as a lot of people, mostly because as a set, I appreciate his mask. Does it look like an Akaku? No. I like it just because, which is weird. My complaint with the Mystic is that they don't look much like it. But the Matoran weren't recreating the T.O.A, so they could have had whatever mask they wanted. So I actually like that. I actually like all three of the Matoran variations of the masks more so than the Fantogas. So I thank him for that.
I think I agree with that.
Plus, I got orange feet out of Photox, so can't really complain about that. Oh my gosh, talking about positive stuff. Guys, we need to talk about stuff we hate about Bionicle. Or no, not hate. Things that irk us. There we go.
Things that we disagree with. The easily cracked sockets on Photox orange lovely feet.
I mean, that's a given. That's given.
Lime sucks.
Yeah, that was a problem.
Bought a brand new Alec, or Elic as I like to call him. Built him, and I don't even think I took him apart. I think as I built him, I broke his leg socket.
Also, speaking of, I'm pretty sure his name's Elic. Why the heck would it be Elec when he's literally based on an eel?
Because that's how he's pronounced.
Why? Who would pronounce it Elec?
Greg.
Greg's an idiot.
No, sorry, Greg's, like Norwegian friend or something.
Mean, Christian Faber?
To be fair,
He's not Norwegian.
I
He's
say
Swedish.
Vezon. It's pronounced Vizon, but he goes Vazon. I've heard there's 3 different carnations of that I've heard or used.
Okay, well, Greg doesn't come up with the characters' names, I'm pretty sure. He just comes up with the pronunciations. And in terms of Elec, Greg, you're an idiot. Because I'm like, okay, obviously he's based, you got Karapper, or Karapar. That one that's
cool.
the way that there's the A, but it's like Crab, Karapper. That's why I call him Crapper. And then Kalma, Calamari, which are, I think, a type of
Seafood.
a type of
Seafood.
And then you have, obviously, Elec, he's an eel. You got Pridak, he's a prick.
Pridak, he's a shark.
Okay, that one, I don't know how they got the Pridak. Predator, Pridak,
Tikadox is,
An insect for some
Praying
reason.
Mantis? He's a praying mantis?
Tikadox, praying mantis.
And then
I don't see the
Mantax
connects.
is
Mantax is a manta ray, so.
That one works.
So, it's like, I don't know. Now, I just realized, man, that Brock had some pretty dumb names. Or inconsistent. Like, okay, some of them, their name schemes are like flown by the animal they are, but then others aren't, like Predak. Oh,
Gosh, their parents had foresight.
I'm just saying. I'm getting more confused by the day. But we're at the 30-minute mark. I don't really want to go with much longer. I got a nice little rambling.
We
on
got a
this.
few, gripes out.
Trust me, we could probably do like a series of podcasts of stuff that annoys about Bionicle because, despite us being fans, we're also the biggest critics of the franchise.
The bigger you complain.
Yeah, big fan equals big critic.
And with over 10 years for just Generation 1, don't worry, we'll talk about Gen 2 eventually. With 10 years of Gen 1, or almost 11 years including the story, like the series that went a bit later, that's a lot of content that you could poke fun at. Especially when there's some contradicting stuff. But, you know, yeah, there's more. I just want to talk about Bionicle. I was rambling. So, thanks for listening. If you want to hear more of us about stuff that we dislike, please let us know. What do you guys dislike? I'm mostly talking to my one brother who actually comments on the videos. what do you dislike? Anything after 03 probably. But yeah, if you guys want to like and subscribe to the channel, please do. We're almost at 30 subs, guys. We're almost at 30.
We don't plan to go anywhere, so we'll still be here.
Yeah, I'll keep dragging you guys into this. So yes, thanks again, and this has been the T.O.A Podcast. I am your host, Amvermel, and we are retiring from the night.